They say that here, on the threshold of the Japanese hell, the air smells like rotten eggs and burnt metal. That a crimson bridge, the Taikobashi, crosses the Sanzu River, where the Oni tear the clothes from the dead to weigh their karma. Something from beyond is tormenting the pilgrims. This summer, something broke the balance. An unholy presence stalks and devours souls, and not even the Oni dare stop it. Only a young shaman might seal the demon at an unthinkable price. Will she succeed? Severed voices, karma counted in every drop. Mount Osore, a sulfur-soaked caldera in the remote region of Aomori, has been imagined for 1,000 years as the threshold of hell. 8 bare peaks surround the steaming lake like fangs around a throat. The Taikobashi, a red bridge, crosses the narrow Masatsu stream, which people call the Sanzu River. According to legend, every soul must wade through this river after death. On the other side await the Oni, Datsueba and Keneō, who strip the deceased of their clothes and weigh the soaked fabric to judge their life according to the weight of their karma. The sulfur fumaroles of Lake Osore fill the air with the stench of rotten eggs. Among the grey rocks stands a bridge that crosses a mythical river. Pilgrims stick incense sticks in the crevices of the rock. On the parapet of the bridge, strings of rokumonsen hang, 6 copper coins tied together with red thread, the symbolic fare paid by the dead to the afterlife ferryman. Next to them are rag dolls, windmills, and small mounds of pebbles that parents build for children who died before reaching adulthood. Every summer, the itako, blind shamans capable of lending their voices to the dead through the kuchiyose ritual, are attracted by that liminal landscape. The following story recounts the events that occurred when a presence shattered the balance at Osorezan. It is the 4th year of the Tenpo era. The harvests fail, the streets of Edo seethe with hunger riots, and the Tokugawa shogunate forbids any religious agitation. It was in that climate of unrest that Mirai lived. Kawakami Mirai was 19 and had not lost her sight to a feverish illness or anything of the sort. Smallpox and famine had taken her little brother Ritsu, leaving her completely orphaned. She had no father or mother. Their deaths were still very recent when Ritsu died. It was a monk, Jizō, who found her filthy, trembling under the rain, lying across the railing of a city river bridge, staring at the current as if longing for her own end. With a lost look in her eyes and starved frame, the girl Mirai was taken in at age 11 at a temple among other without shelter. She received food, a basic education, and religious training at the temple, but the attention she received was not enough. Agony flooded her. She saw her brother's face in every child, in every puddle, in every mirror. Sometimes he appeared to her in the distance, or when she lay on her back looking up at the ceiling, she dreamed of him, scratching himself, his skin raw, with a dying face, a flaccid body, half-closed eyes which, when opening, emitted a blinding glow and released a deafening scream. At that moment, Mirai awoke. One quiet night, while everyone was asleep, she took 2 needles and a candle, seized by hallucinations. Once both needles turned red-hot from the flame, she gripped them with her fingers and buried them in her pupils. Thus, she would remain blind forever by her own will. She did it, thinking it would be a relief, and that enduring the pain would be nothing compared to her current suffering. Yet deep inside, she also felt she had done it as punishment. In a way, the guilt of not having fulfilled her protective role, of not watching over her brother, always awaited her. Her mourning and beliefs perpetuated that sorrow, ignoring the fact that she was, ultimately, only a child. Once blind, she could no longer see him, but then she began to hear him. Sometimes it was only his sweet voice calling her from any corner of memory. She longed for him, as she longed for her parents. All her distress perhaps made her vulnerable to the curses of this world, but her strength of spirit and vocation for sacrifice would later make her a singular spiritualist, blessed with incomparable gifts, as well as an unyielding will. Given her new condition, and at the monk's urging, she decided to train to become an itako, unafraid of censure, and she gave herself to it body and soul. She realized the power that could be born from misfortune. She felt that only thus would she have the chance to contact and guide the spirits of the dead who still need to speak and be heard. At 12, Mirai began the discipline, morning ablutions with cold water, fasts, memorization of 100 mantras. Her talent surprised even the old masters, and very soon she gained fame as a medium. Yet with her own dead, she never could connect. The only thing that happened was that, at times while meditating, she again heard his voice, her brother's.
If you offer your sorrow, the caldera will sleep.
What did that message mean? Moreover, in recent nights, she had begun to have very strange, vivid dreams. She dreamed of lifeless children, souls of little creatures filled with weeping and melancholy. In her attempt to serve the Omura family, whose 5-year-old son, Jizō, had fallen victim to measles, she saw that this time she would not manage to establish contact with his spirit. She tried for several days without success. She began to doubt her abilities, but that was not all. She sensed a different, pernicious air. She felt that something disturbing was happening, only she did not know what or where. Somehow, something called her north. She also saw mountains in her dreams, exhaling yellow vapors, statuettes, a bridge, clouds racing across the sky, a crimson moon reflected in the waters of a stream. She went to Jizō, who had once sheltered her, so that he could help her understand her distress. He recognized the scenery of the vision. It was Mount Osore. Those mountains invited her. She had to go there, to Aomori. Other itakos did it every year for the Itako Taisai, attending the summer festival of Osore. For the first time, at 19, she would also travel to that place, guided by her guide dog Kumo, determined to serve in the ceremony of Bodaiji, the Temple of Enlightenment. That place serves as a ritual gateway between worlds. Thus, Mirai could witness and perhaps understand what was unfolding in that remote infernal site, and why she could not find that child's soul. What connection could there be? Her stay began a few days earlier. She set up her tent. There was something abnormal there, beyond the supernatural and thaumaturgic nature of the site. A series of misfortunes had just occurred in those parts. Monks disappearing, drowned in the lake's waters. Some statues of the Bodhisattva Jizō, protector of children's souls, were gone. The atmosphere was heavier than usual. The acolytes swore. The wind blew hard at night and always snuffed out the candles' flames. Several claimed to have seen in the darkness bright sulfurous orbs, incandescent, like the entrails of that extinct volcano. The itakos present, especially Mirai, could sense it. Even the 2 ancient demons appeared restless. Now, something was haunting the caldera and wreaking havoc. Mirai, seated before the altar, chews coarse salt, waves the gohei once more. Nothing. Then a thick, sulfurous gust blew out the candle. Keneō appears to her, speaks in her ear, answering her call. He clarifies that soul no longer wanders in this existence. Something had consumed it. Datsueba and Keneō had not weighed his clothes. His soul would not transcend.
She is here.
Keneō vanished at that very moment. The news deeply dismayed Mirai, and of course the Omura and the others present. She chose to try to summon other spirits, other infants whose souls she could touch, and perhaps inquire about that which they all could be fearing. Then it was there that, during that brief kuchiyose, she notices that something steals the summoned spirit before it can speak. She hears a whisper.
The child's soul was already mine. Yours and the rest will be as well.
At that instant she perceived the unusual presence. A feminine shadow appeared for the first time before her. Perhaps she could not see it, but she could draw it in her mind simply by feeling it. That impure, immodest aura, wearing a white kimono, long black hair, a ruthless smile, and lifeless gaze stained only by an intense, disturbing sulfur yellow. She could hear her claiming that borrowed sorrow. Mirai fell into a trance. Suddenly, she was plunging into the lake, suffering an attempt to drown her in waters now blood. The last thing she saw as she sank into the depth, descending into that dark void, were the lifeless bodies of infants, floating like chrysanthemums around her, the Jizō statuettes sunk at the bottom, and her staring fixedly with honey-colored pupils, with a grimace that combined tenderness and sadism, her black hair spreading like tentacles and ink. She awoke, agitated. Had it not truly happened, or had it? Her kimono nonetheless was damp, and a marked ferrous taste filled her mouth. In any case, she had crossed the metaphysical space and lived it as a sinister dream, a palpable nightmare. There, an immeasurable evil had manifested, one she knew she had to face. It was a boundless hatred, such as she had never witnessed. Later, Mirai, accompanied by Kumo, met with the elderly Shuen, the abbot of Bodaiji, who had called for her. He confessed to the shaman that 20 years earlier, he had the misfortune of witnessing an atrocious act. A maiden, mind and soul disturbed, threw kidnapped babies into the lake, sacrificing them to provoke and awaken Jizō. The night before, Datsueba confirmed to the abbot that it was she, what she had been, and that she now wandered as a golden-eyed demon spreading calamity. The profaned statues mark each infanticide, but after the infamous woman's suicide, they continue to vanish. The small mounds of stacked stones dawn collapsed, and the pinwheels end up in the water. That third figure, the abominable maiden, haunts the caldera. Expelled from eternal judgment by a crime so heinous that not even the Sanzu wished to receive her, she now wandered through the mist, forced to absorb the remorse of the newly dead. The ascetic tells Mirai that the three brothers who suffered the bitter fate in the lake nights ago did so trying to establish a ritual to stop her, but it was in vain. The demon was growing ever stronger, able to snatch the soul even of those still living. The sulphurous air irritated the eyes, and ashes covered the decapitated Jizō. To stop her, the young shaman realized she would have to negotiate with Datsueba and Keneō, who now did not dare face the maiden and offer a greater sacrifice. She thought, with her precocious wisdom, that only thus could she break the cycle of guilt that burns in the demon's golden eyes and restore balance to the mountain of fear. The next morning, another of the professed was found dead on the shore. Mirai headed for the epicenter. Although she could not see the vermilion bridge, she could feel its peeling paint beneath her fingers, rough as a cat's tongue. She counted each plank. She heard the current of water flowing beneath her feet, cutting through the stones. She also heard the faint whistle of the wind. Standing on Takobashi Bridge, she heard a dissonant, dry, metallic jingling. 6 copper coins slip from the offering cord and roll into the water. A 7th black coin stood miraculously upright on the railing for a heartbeat, defying gravity, and then fell. It did not splash. The water made a sharp whistle. It sounded more like a desperate cry. Mirai was now traversing the bridge, once again in a state of reverie. She felt the emptiness where statues ought to stand. Datsueba and Keneō beg her again to contain the maiden. The balance is about to break forever if the ochre-eyed spirit is not restrained. Her power will keep multiplying, and all souls, regardless of age or any circumstance, will be consumed without judgment. The maiden will absorb and feed on all our sorrows. Chaos will reign. When Mirai touches the waters of the Sanzu, She sees the moment when the maiden was returned, sees how the oni could not weigh her clothes because there was not enough karma to counteract the horror, and she sees how the river itself spat her back out. She returned, transformed into a bottomless hunger. Mirai speaks with the gods, and they lead her again to the abbot Shuin. He may hold part of the answer. He then reveals a possibility, a relic, the only intact Jizō the demon has not dared to profane, made of very ancient white volcanic stone. It absorbs negative karmic energy. If they attempt a new conjuration to stop the demon, it could be submerged in the lake alongside a sacrifice that weighs more than the evil committed, he concludes. That is how karmic debts work. Only thus is evil contained, through sacrifices. Then, on a crimson moon night, the festival bursts with chants and lanterns. Then, all was silence. Only the muffled toll of a clapperless bell. Mirai raises her staff and with a lash of voice summons all the child victim spirits present in that magical place that is Mount Osore. All at once. She need not even pronounce the unknown names. That would provoke the onryō. It pushed Mirai to the edge of her life, for it required enormous spiritual energy, though she had been granted immense karma and power. Now it was time to save souls. During that great final kuchiyose, ash covered every oil lamp. The flames died with an acidic hiss, leaving total darkness save for the scarlet moonlight and the yellow eyes about to float. The lake boiled. The demon emerged. The air grew thicker, hard to breathe. The black hair extended like roots and took hostages. The pilgrims collapsed unconscious. Only she remained standing, sustained by her unmatched strength. Then the shaman voluntarily offers her voice, the channel of every kuchiyose, and vows never again to speak with the dead. The maiden unleashes a cruel laugh that makes Bodaiji and the whole mountain tremble and knocks Mirai against the taikobashi's floor. She rises, draws the tanto, and amputates her tongue. The pain, the taste of iron and sulfur, dizzies her. Shuin, immune, while bearing the great Jizō, plunges it into the lake. The symbolic weight of the offering had to surpass the crimes. Blood paints the already red bridge and stains the waters below, but it was not enough. Bodies keep falling, immobilized by the evil maiden who persists in wrenching out their souls. Her eyes continue shining like two suns, and her hair, blacker than that night, entwines necks. In an instant, 7 unpunished old itakos come forward with their scissors to make the same sacrifice. Each drop of blood ends up in the river, as if finding its own way there. Each cry becomes a black bubble that the lake swallows. Mirai briefly recalls the advice Ritsu shouted as it slips into her thoughts.
If you offer your sorrow, the caldera will sleep.
Thus, she decides to willingly give her life and power in exchange for peace and balance to return to that mundane place. She takes the knife, already covered in her own blood, lifts it and sinks it between her ribs. When the blade touches her heart, the pain is like a flash of lightning. Then she sees her brother with a smile mixed with melancholy. Now she understood the message he has been conveying to her all this time. Osorezan accepts the offering. The mist dissipates, the lake falls silent, and the maiden fades into yellow vapor. A final soundless scream pierces the night. The Jizō statues reappear on the shore like shipwreck survivors, clean, as if freshly burnished. The 7 itakos have been left mute and blind forever. The oni return to their posts, but in Keneō's seat rests a bamboo staff and a clapperless bell. Mirai will take his place, weighing the clothes of the children and the sinless. Kumo licks the tanto's blood and sits beside her, guardian till the end. At dawn of a day following the horrors of that night, an acolyte picks up a blackened coin. He pockets it in his kimono as a souvenir. As he descends the mountain, the metal begins to heat in his palm, and he hears, in the distance, the jingling of 6 other coins answering from within the mist. Has everything returned to normal on Mount Osore?
Subscribe to hear the next call from the darkness.